Have you ever been so cornered, so terrified, that you've made a choice you knew was awful, just because it felt like the only choice you had? That gut-wrenching, stomach-in-knots feeling where you're caught between a rock and a place so hard it could shatter you. That's the exact, suffocating terror that Emmerdale just dragged us through. We watched tonight with our hearts in our throats as April Windsor and Dylan Penders, two kids buckling under the weight of a monster, tried to make a desperate break for freedom. Their plan? Grab a bag of stolen cash from the absolute worst person imaginable, Ray Walters, and just run. Run until they couldn't run anymore. But this is Emmerdale. And in the Dales, running from your problems doesn't just make them catch up, it makes them multiply. What we witnessed wasn't an escape. It was the tightening of a noose, and it's left us terrified that the worst is still so far from over. The episode kicked off with that all-too-familiar feeling of doubt. April, who has already put her family through the ringer, was having second thoughts. You could see the war playing out behind her eyes. The guilt of devastating her family again was battling the sheer primal fear of what Ray would do if they stayed. But Dylan, bless his desperate heart, was all in. He convinced her, feeding them both the lie they needed to hear. We can tell them where we are, once we're safe. It was the safe part that hung in the air, a word that felt hollow and impossible. What followed was a masterclass in heartbreak. If you've ever had to say goodbye to someone without really saying goodbye, this hit hard. Dylan went to see Paddy Kirk, the man who has been more of a dad to me than my real dad ever was. He poured his heart out, dancing right up to the edge of the truth, but never crossing it. He let Paddy feel his gratitude, his love, and his sorrow, all while hiding the terrifying why. It was a gut punch of dramatic irony. We knew what Paddy didn't. This was farewell. Across the village, April was doing the same with Marlon. In the bustling cafe, a place usually filled with warmth, she looked at her dad and laid it all on the line. She apologized. She told him how glad she was that he was her dad. Every word was laced with a finality that Marlon mistook for teenage reconciliation. But for April, it was an epitaph for her life in Emmerdale. A text from Dylan, "Bus in 10 minutes," was the gunshot that started the race. At that bus stop, the air was thick with a toxic cocktail of hope and dread. This was it, the point of no return, as they agreed. They were really doing this. They were leaving everything they'd ever known, accepting that they could never come back. For one split second, as they sat waiting, you almost believed they could make it. You wanted them to make it. But the universe and the Emmerdale writers had other plans. Back in the pub, in a scene that made my blood run cold, the walls closed in. Ray, the predator they were running from, just happened to be playing pool. He overheard Paddy and Marlon comparing notes, talking about the strange emotional goodbyes from their kids. You could almost see the sinister gears turning in Ray's head. It wasn't just suspicion, it was the click of a hunter's trap. A chilling voicemail to Dylan, "Call me back, immediately," was just the start. On a bus, somewhere on the way to Manchester, the fragile bubble of their escape finally burst. This wasn't a clean getaway, it was just a head start. April's phone wouldn't stop buzzing, it was Ray. Dylan, who had already blocked the dealer, told her to do the same. Just ignore it, he pleaded, wanting to keep the illusion of safety alive for just a few more minutes. But she couldn't. And then the notification that changed everything. Ray had sent a video. This is where the true horror of their situation crashed down. This wasn't just about them anymore. The video wasn't just threats against them. It was a cold, calculated promise of violence against her family. Against Paddy. Ray was done playing games. He was threatening the very people April was trying to protect by running away. Her desperate act of self-preservation had just painted a giant target on her family's back. In that moment, Dylan's pleas to keep running meant nothing. April knew. She couldn't trade her family's safety for her own. The choice was made. She wasn't running from Ray anymore. She was running back to him, to protect the people she loved. And then he was there. Like a monster from a nightmare, Ray turned up. The nice guy facade he'd been wearing was gone, burned away to reveal the cold, terrifying villain beneath. The game was over. He didn't yell. He didn't chase. He just took. He took his money back, snatching the physical symbol of their freedom right from their hands. Then he took Dylan. With a cold, terrifying order, he told Dylan to get in the car. Just like that, he separated them. He isolated them. He took his hostage. But he saved his most soul-destroying blow for April. As he prepared to drive off with a terrified Dylan, he delivered his final command. April will do whatever her next client wants tomorrow. Let that sink in. He didn't just take the money. He didn't just take her friend. He took her body. He took her future. He took her hope. As the car drove off, leaving April alone, shattered, and utterly broken on the side of a dark road, the look on her face wasn't just devastation. It was the look of someone who had just been handed a life sentence. They didn't just get caught. They are in a deeper, darker, more dangerous hole than ever before. Ray hasn't just dropped the pretense of being nice. He's shown them that he has absolute terrifying control. He has their money, he has Dylan, and he has April exactly where he wants her, trapped, compliant, and with no way out. Where has he taken Dylan? Is he a hostage? Or is he being punished in a way we can't even imagine? And what, dear God, does Ray mean by whatever her next client wants? April and Dylan's desperate bid for freedom just failed in the most catastrophic way possible. They aren't back at square one. They're at square minus 100, and the monster they tried to escape now has his claws in them deeper than ever. How can they ever break free now?